Thank you all for coming here today. I'll tell you a little bit about my sad tale of woe. Back in 2000, I was in graduate school, and like Molly was saying, I started to get bruises that just didn't go away, and I got colds that I just couldn't seem to shake. And up till then, I'd been healthy as a horse all my life. I had no health insurance. One day I was out working in the driveway and something gave way in my leg, and it started to swell up. About midnight, I was freaking out. My leg apparently I had bled, several units of blood into my leg, and I got rushed to the hospital and spent the worst night of my life, listening to some kid down the hall screaming, wondering what the heck was the matter with myself, and got a diagnosis of chronic myelogenous leukemia, or as I used to like to call it, the beast. And I would not want anybody to ever have to go through that. It was hard. I had no insurance. I didn't know what to do. I got information from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Some friends of mine tried to help me. Went to the library and got a book out of the library. Well, that book was about 5 years old. At that point in time, CML was pretty much at the death sentence. The diagnosis was you had 2 to 5 years. It was slow acting, but it was inevitable. 2 to 5 years, you'd be dead. The only cure at the time was a bone marrow transplant. So I did that. But I had no insurance, and the bottom line at that time was you're talking $250,000 just for the transplant, nothing else. So I got a lot of poking and prodding done. Got some good news. My brother was a perfect match for me. That was one of the best days of my life. I went outside and said a little prayer, dancing in the grass. And that was the beginning of my long road. And I got into an experimental study, so I didn't have to worry about my insurance. And that study was funded by the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And I had 3-4 days of high-dose chemo. The nurse comes in, she's wearing like these thick oven mitts and this big lead apron, and this is the stuff they're putting into my veins. And then they took me downstairs to the basement, and they irradiated my body. And I would go basically into this safe with a door like this thick, and they'd shut it behind me. Everybody else would be back there, and I'd be sitting in this chair in the middle of this room, and I mean, you couldn't feel anything, but hours later, you were just wiped out. And but I pulled through it. I'd be glad to tell you about the details of all that stuff. Let me tell you what, though, I still have not been to the Children's Cancer Ward. I don't know that I could do that. It just would tear me up, even at this point in time. And one day, a guy comes up to me, who's a friend of a friend, and he says, I'm going to go do the New Orleans Marathon with Team of Training, and I want to run in your honor. And that was my first exposure to TNT. And it's like, I want to do that. That was my goal. That was one of the things that got me through my recovery. And I remember the first time, the first season, was I did my event. It was almost 5 years to the day from my diagnosis, and I did it. And I remember sitting at the Costa party beforehand and watching Lynn's face when I stood up and said, I had gone through all of that. It was hilarious. Anyway, it's a hard, cruel world out there, folks. And when you're a cancer patient, you're at the brunt of it. But somehow, I got to meet all these wonderful people I hadn't heard from in years, calling me up. People that friends of mine, when they went and did fundraising, people would just give, and I would get phone calls, I would get letters. There was a lot of good people out there, and that really restored me in a way that the medicine didn't. It gave me the will to fight, and that's why I do this every year. I've been doing it for several years now. There are a lot of good people, and if you look around this room, you'll see some of them right here. And it's a privilege for me to be involved and to meet you guys and run with you. And